3, 2, 1. Um, Excited to be here. This is actually my 15th media day. A couple different schools, so I always look forward to this day for our players more than anything. It's a fun day. I went to this same event as a player with Mike Devlin back in 1992. When it used to be over in Chicago, I remember I was checking in the hotel and I met Kirk Herbstreit for the first time. He was a starting quarterback at Ohio State. So the world has changed a lot since '92, and excited for our players to have this opportunity. So you obviously just heard my opening remarks. I'll just open up for questions.
You guys have some roster additions there.
Yeah.
We've not talked about kind of walk us through Demetrius and
Yeah. So in the back end, who do we got? Demetrius Hill, we haven't talked about. Demetrius was a kid that came out of FAU and was a guy that, or FIU, but watched his portal film. Really liked what he is. Thought he could. We obviously know we lost some players back there, and then really Clayton Bush kind of came in after that and was put him on film. Really liked what I saw. Called the coach at Western Kentucky where he's at. I reached out to coaches at Southern Illinois, and very athletic, explosive playmaker, strong. Kind of reminds me a little bit of a guy by the name of Chris Maragos that I had at Wisconsin, play type. Really like the fact that he's joined us in the summer and the impact he's had. Who else didn't? Who? Oh, Prince Ford. Yeah, we were in on a couple corners, and then can't remember how we found him. Somebody brought his film in, and Aaron and I both really liked the film. In today's world, you can't go see him, right? Because we're in a dead recruiting period. So brought him in on a visit. Thought he fit in real well with our program. I saw him yesterday. His body's changed quite a bit. But a lot of these kids that are coming from smaller type environments, programs, that summer, which is our most intense, is something that really opens their eyes, right? And Prince, I think, got his eyes opened early and often, but excited to see him play next week.
You mentioned Jenkins.
Yeah, Lane Jenkins. So Lane was a little bit different. One of our coaches was tipped off to him at his junior college. We went back and watched high school film, saw some film at a junior college he was at before, the Kansas JUCO, and just really liked his body type, his explosiveness. We had him set on a visit. He was coming in, and another school had snuck him in the middle of the night and put him on an official visit, so I had to kind of go through some hoops to get him to come on his visit, but as him and mom came, he's an Illinois kid, and he's been a great addition so far, and I have been able to see him work out a little bit, but nothing with pads on.
Bret, you mentioned Jim Leonhard.
Yeah.
Obviously, you go back a long way with
Yeah.
him. As an analyst, what do you think he can provide in this year for your program?
Well, obviously, Jeff, Jimmy's football IQ is at a different level. I first met with him as a player when I was a defense coordinator. I remember I walked out of that meeting just like, wow, this guy sees the game extremely well, and then to be with him as a coordinator and him as our starting safety, he just had some presence and awareness in game moments. I'm like, hey, if you ever want to coach, you're going to be pretty good, right? And he had an incredible NFL career. He was always around the Ryan brothers in his practice, so I would kind of grill him when he'd come back and, hey, what do you guys run and how are you running it? Build up a really good relationship during his NFL career when I was a head coach at Wisconsin. And then when he got into coaching, we would talk quite a bit. I obviously wasn't there anymore, and Coach Alvarez talked about how good he was. And then when I saw Paul promote him to coordinator and saw the way they started playing, my first year especially, I mean, it was just it was very impressive what they did schematically, and I knew that he was kind of the main key there. Antonio Fennell's on my roster now, coached with him there. Aaron knows him, J-Mo knows him, Andy Boo knew him from his playing time there. So there was a lot of connections with our staff, and I kind of just said, hey, what are you looking for, right? Like, I don't have an on-the-field position, but, would you be interested in an analyst role? So he and I just kind of started having some conversations, and one thing led to another, and I know he had a bunch of things going on. I wasn't in a big hurry. I said, what I would love for you to do is join us in a senior analyst role. Don't just work with our defense. I want you to work with our offense on what you see from the defenses we're playing. I'm going to get involved in the special teams. I set it up there, but he really won't travel with us. He can't do any on-the-field coaching. He can't do any recruiting, but he can be in the building and kind of be it's going to be a great tool for me because I think anytime I can get someone that I really respect on how they see the game, that brings a lot of great discussions.
Bret, you served as a consultant with the Patriots for
Yeah.
a year. Where you see more and more coaches doing this as kind of a in-between spot. What was the benefit, or what do you?
Jim, I don't know what to best say this. When I was a coach at Iowa with Kirk, I was always like Hayden. No one ever came in, right? But when Kirk got there, Kirk started bringing in other coaches, and I really learned the value of having other people come in and tell you what they see, right? And then so when I was a head coach at Wisconsin, I did that a little bit, but I also had an AD who was a coach who would always tell me what he saw, right? So I kind of was spoiled when I was there. But when I went to Arkansas, I had Dave Wanstadt come in for a week, and when Wani left, he had a pages of notes on what he saw, right? And it was things that don't pop up on my radar every day because he's a really good coach who sees things with his blind eyes, right? So then I started doing some analyst hires at Arkansas that were really very positive. Really made an impact on our game plans and also for me as a head coach. When Clay Helton got let go at USC, I literally called him and invited him. He spent a couple weeks with us back my first year. He just came on campus. I just like seeing good coaches who I think are good coaches on what they see. And that drove to the conversation when Jimmy was available to get this moment. So that's how I do it. And it's just really because I think, like I tell players, competition brings the best out of you. I think when you have good coaches in the building, it really brings good coaching.
When did you reach out to Jim, and what can you provide to Aaron this year?
When did I reach out to Jim?
Yeah.
I literally reached out to Jim today. He got it right when we played him the day before. I didn't know what was going to happen, right? But we talked after the game, just compliment, wish him good luck, and then lo and behold, the next day he's the head coach, right? And I shot him a text literally that day and wished him luck and said, hey, during the offseason, love to help you however I can. And that kind of just started conversations. And then, obviously I went into our season and the rest of their season. When he didn't get the job, I reached out to him, just said, hey, thinking of you, anything I can do, let me know. And then it probably just kind of progressed from there. Just not a lot. I wasn't in a hurry. I knew he had to process some things, and it kind of continued to build. And then really after spring ball in May, I kind of said, hey, this is what I'm thinking. What are you thinking? And that's how it started.
Brett, there was reporting that he was going to have something done on his hip, medically or a procedure done on his hip. Will that preclude him from starting when you want him to, maybe in fall camp? Or
Jimmy can't be on the field for us,
right.
So anything medical-wise, I don't know anything about. But he will join us when we get him into fall camp here, and he'll be on a rotational basis too. Like he during a normal game week will be with us, like Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then he'll be with his family Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, and so forth. So still working out the details, but excited to have him in the building.
Do you anticipate being full health going into fall camp?
Do we expect? Yeah, there's one guy that's added onto the roster that through the screening process, some things popped up that he may not be joining us, but I mentioned up there, we just got the rule passed at all. We have a roster of 120, and you can bring 120 to your camp, so our entire roster will be there. As of right now, there might be 2 or 3 guys with a soft tissue hamstring that's a little tweaked, but other than that, we should be full go rodeo. Bryce and Zai, who are out in the spring, Matt Bailey, all those guys should be reporting.
Brett, you touched a little bit on what happened at Northwestern, but does the term football culture and what has changed maybe the past several years, the Me Too movement and everything, does that cause you to reflect on maybe things that were accepted in football locker rooms years ago? Maybe that's changed.
I know I get it and I understand the question, but I became a head coach in 2006, and I think that was really when things really began to early change in the early 2000s. Some of the traditions and things that happened around football, right? But as a head coach, there was definitely some conversations that I had every stop along the way with administration, with our culture. We have an Illini council, and those guys are pretty upfront and honest, right? If they have anything that concerns them and anything that doesn't make them feel good. And like I said, I think the biggest sign we have in our program is we've had the fewest guys leave our program in college football. We're one of the top 5 country teams that don't have kids leave, so I think that speaks volumes about what we do.
Coach, last question here. 5 weeks before the opener, how do you feel about Meyer, where you are?
Yeah, I think quarterback room is as deep as I've had it since I've been there. We were in our staff meeting yesterday, and we have these principles that we kind of live by: to 4 things walking in, 4 things walking out. And Art Sikowski's in that meeting for the first time, and one of our things is be here, right? So no matter where you're at, as a person, as a when you come in the Smith Center, you have a life outside of that building, but when you come there in the Smith Center, you got to concentrate on being there, right? And I had Art speak to that because Art Sikowski came off the bench 3 times, beat Nebraska, Penn State, and Iowa, right? And for that to happen, that doesn't just happen, right? Like, he's ready for the moment as a backup quarterback, and that really said a lot to me about the way we're developing our players, right? And Luke has come into this program is completely, I think what we do is completely different from what he had been a part of. Good, bad, or indifferent. I'm not saying that's just completely different environment. And because of that, I think it took him a while to adjust to what we do, right? And over the last month, according to our strength coaches and the guys that have been watching workouts, his leadership skills and his communication with the team has really jumped. But Donovan O'Leary looks as good as he's ever looked. John Paddock has made a great impression on our players. Michel has done a really good job. So the competition room in that quarterback room is as good as we've ever had it, and that's what I'm excited about.
Brandon, you
Thanks,
addressed
guys. Hold tight.